CEOs in real time so you can pick their brain and get immediate help about your business, your life, your relationships, and your health. Today, we are talking about leadership, specifically how to find the hero from within. What does heroic leadership actually mean? What is it? So we are now in a time where leaders are called up. We are looking up for leaders. And today we are going to talk with Eric Rogell, who is the podcast host of Warriors. I'm going to mess it up. Warriors, Lovers, Kings, and Heroes. And before we get to Eric, hop on in. I'm thatgeek.com/live. Click the button right below the video so you can join us and have a conversation in real time. We're going to play a little intro and let you guys come on in, and then we'll get started. And we are doing that. So welcome to That Geek Show. Today we are talking about heroic leadership, which is so required nowadays. So with us, we have the amazing Eric Rogell. Hey, Eric, how are you?
Hey, Yifat, how you doing? A real pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for coming. And I have to tell you guys, we have technical issues. If you have not yet upgraded your Zoom, don't. It doesn't allow. It doesn't see my camera right now on Zoom. So Eric is running blind, but I know we can do this. So as we're diving into heroic leadership and what does that mean in days of Corona and in days not of Corona, like in regular life, everyday life, in business, with your partner, with your family, what does that really mean? This is what we're talking about today. If you're watching us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, hop on in to thatgeek.com/live because we are going to have a conversation with you and Eric in real time, not just comments and typing. So Eric, let's get started with why is it even important right now?
Well, this is really an unusual time, right? I mean, this is unprecedented. We haven't seen anything like this probably ever in recent history.
Right.
And what we're seeing now is, you have two real kind of things happening. You've got people that are looking for leadership, and you've got people who are stepping up and becoming the leadership, right? So we're seeing things like, people panicking, hoarding, buying up all the
Right.
toilet paper, which I still don't understand. But that is like an animal behavior, right? Survival. They get right into survival.
Yeah.
Then you have people who come in and they step up as leaders. And we're seeing this with a lot of, the news reports we're hearing around the country, celebrities, athletes stepping up, celebrities doing live video entertaining from their homes, musicians doing impromptu concerts from their living rooms, athletes that are contributing to pay for the salaries of people that are working in the arenas who have lost their jobs. I mean, that's the kind of thing we're seeing right now. There's such an incredible dichotomy. The contrast is amazing between people stepping up to be leaders and people who are kind of floundering and looking for leadership. So that's why it's really, really important right now.
So I have to share a joke that we're talking. Why are people buying toilet paper and so, right? Like, why are they hoarding toilet paper? And the joke is because when one person sneezes, 100 people shit their pants.
Yeah, I saw that joke. I thought that was really funny. But when you think about it, it's like if you talk about, like the phrases that we use every day, and you say it scared the shit out of people.
Right.
That's like that base mentality. It's like, oh my God, this is one of the most basic needs that I have besides food, and I'm just going to go grab as much of it as I can.
Right.
So, tons of that going on right now.
And so, I'm hearing a lot of people on social media saying hey, I feel I was afraid this whole time. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted to launch my podcast or my course, my thing. and I've been thinking about it for 2 years, but now I feel like there's a real need for leaders to step up, and I'm just not sure, am I the leader that the world needs? So when you're working with leaders and men and CEOs and bringing people up to that level, do you hear that a lot? A lot of people are kind of like, is it me?
Yeah, I hear it all the time. I mean, look, I went through it myself. You know, I mean, this was the whole beginning part of my life was like, I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
And I was working with other people and training them and making them into leaders and looking at myself like, oh, no, I can't do this. It's not me. So yeah, it's incredibly common. We all go through that. That's just, it's part of our journey, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but it's part of our journey to become that leader, to work yourself into that. And I think, when you said you're talking to a lot of people now and they're like, oh, I've always wanted to do my podcast, or I have this message that I want to give out. Now is the time, right? Because like I said, when things like this happen, when there's a crisis, when there's an emergency, when there's a global pandemic, you feel that stirring in here that says, this is my time. I have something to give. I have value. I have something to offer. I really need to do this. And so we'll talk today about how to kind of get yourself down that journey quicker so that you can get that message out.
Yeah, so let's start with a little mindset. A lot of people, there's the two ways, right? Two ways that you can approach any crisis. One is you can fumble down and be like, oh my God, I'm in survivor mode. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. I'm like a deer in a headlight. And the other one is, woo, opportunity. Yeah, let's go get it. So how do you switch? I feel a lot of people are kind of like, in shitty situation, if I may say that. My mom, for example, I'm talking to her on video chat, and she's just staring at the TV with like this horror, on her face. And I'm like, Mom, do you like horror movies? And she's like, I hate horror movies. Why? And I'm like, why are you watching the news? And she's like, because you have to know what's going on. I'm like, yeah, but look at you. Everything is like, oh my God, unemployment. Oh my God, so many people died. Oh my God, So how do you move someone? How do you help them move from like this deer in a headlight, I'm addicted to, drama, to actually empowerment, and I can lead people out of this?
Yeah, that's interesting. And I love that story about your mom, because I remember, back in 2001 when the, 9/11 happened and the towers fell. I was living with my girlfriend at the time, and that was who she was. She was on the couch every day looking at the news and just getting more and more drawn in and more horrified.
Yeah.
And I think that the best thing to do on this is, when you become aware that you're doing this behavior, that's when you can shift it. Mm-hmm. So if you take a step back for a second, and you go, wait a minute, I'm getting caught up in all of this. I'm starting to panic. I'm starting to get into like that. This happened to me the other day. I wrote about this to my followers. I said that, I was in a supermarket the other day and I knew I only needed a few things.
Yeah.
But I was looking around me and I saw people that had like shopping carts full of stuff and toilet paper piled up and gallons of milk. And I'm thinking, wow, do they know something I don't know? Like, do I really need all that stuff? Do I need 40 gallons of milk? I don't drink milk. So I don't, but I had that urge to like kind of follow in. And I took a step back and I went, all right, just, if this wasn't a global pandemic and everybody wasn't in panic mode, what would you be doing? Mm. And I wouldn't have noticed what they had in their carts. So when you take that step back and you kind of go, all right, wait, what am I being right now? And we're going to get into this in a little bit on how to, what you're really looking for. Who am I being right now? What am I doing right now? And am I coming from decision and discernment, mm-hmm. or am I coming from panic and following and getting caught up in hysteria? And I think when you stop for a second and do that, it becomes really easy to kind of see who you're being at that moment. So that would be my biggest piece of advice, is if you start to feel yourself getting caught up, stop, take a breath, take a look at what's going on, what the real situation is. And like you said in a minute ago, is there opportunity here, or is there real reason to panic? And you'll notice, I say this about first responders, they hear the gunshots or they see the flames. Everybody's running away, they're running towards, right? Military's trained for that. Guys are heroes, just go towards it. And if you can kind of train that in yourself, step back, look, who am I being? Am I running away? Am I running towards? Is there something I can run towards and solve this issue? That's probably the best first step.
I love that. I love that you're saying that, because awareness and getting back to ourselves and actually feeling our body and our thought is not something that we can do in everyday life when everything is running. But now, thank goodness we're at home, isolated. There's not a lot of things to do. So you can take the time to kind of like sense and feel what's going on in your body and not just be reactive. And so one of the things that people are looking out for, and I think maybe this is why my mom is like so addicted to the news, is we are looking for leaders. We are looking for people to say like, this is how you can move forward. You know, I need a mentor. And that's something that you went through in your life. You're looking for mentorship, right? So tell me a little bit about that journey. How did that go?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that was my journey since I was a kid. You know, I was raised by a single mom. So my dad wasn't around a lot. And I found myself in my early years, and when I say early years, I mean, even into my 30s, looking for really good male mentors, male role models, leaders that I could look up to. And, you know, the interesting thing was while I was in the journey, I didn't appreciate who was around me. You know, I felt like there was nobody here for me, right? I'm all alone in this. I'm doing this thing on my own.
Right.
And it really took me till now to become aware that, you know, every step along the way, there were teachers, there were mentors. In whatever little kind of tiny way they were mentors all along that journey. But if you look at this, you know, life and even what's going on right now, right? As a hero's journey.
Right.
And we've all heard that term, the hero's journey. We're all on one. I mean, if you look back at every myth, every story, I mean, even today, all the movies, the Marvel movies, Star Wars movies, they're all about the hero's journey.
Right.
And when you take a step back and look at it, and I looked at my own, you know, who my teachers were, who my mentors were, we'll talk about my dad in a little bit, some of the things that he taught me without teaching me, right? It wasn't like he sat me down. This is my biggest awareness was nobody really sat me down and said, hey, Eric, this is this, and this is this, and this is this. It was experiences. It was stories. It was, you know, things that I reflected back on that I went, oh, wow, okay, well, I learned something there. That kind of moved me forward a little bit. And, you know, it was understanding, you know, from one of my mentors now, Rob James, showed me the different archetypes that we all go through. And if you look at these stories, these myths, we all kind of travel through these archetypes. And we've defined them for the purposes of this talk as the warrior, the lover, the king, and the hero, king and queen and hero. And that's kind of where my podcast came, because I thought I went through this journey of trying to become a better man, looking for role models. Are there other men out there who are, number one, doing the same thing, looking for that? And number two, men who have already kind of are a little further along the path than I am, that have done their journey.
Right.
And I want to hear their story. So that's kind of why we put that podcast together. And that's why it has the title it has, because we've all passed through warrior to lover to king and queen into hero.
Yeah. So let's, before we dive into speaking about that, I want to let everybody know, those who are in Zoom right now, you can't see this, but on the screen, there is a little image of the quick start guide that you are able to download to help you through everything that Eric is talking about right now. You can get that in imthatgeek.com/live. Right to the right of the video, you'll be able to see that. Click on it. It's free, completely free, and it will allow you to dive deeper into the archetypes that we are talking about right now. So so before we get into the archetypes, I know a lot of aha moments and light bulbs go off usually when you hit rock bottom, right? Like when something's really, really bad and then you overcome that somehow and then you get this epiphany. So was that something like you grew up without a father being around, you're looking for role models? Did something kind of happen where you were like, oh, you know what? I hate this version of me. What is Eric Rogell 2.0 and how do I get there? And then you develop this entire system.
Yeah, that's really funny, because the funny thing is, it's like, every day, Yifat, that's what happened every single day.
Every day is rock bottom.
Every day. Well, I wouldn't say rock bottom, but every day is like, what's that challenge? And it's funny because, one of the big things for me, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but one of the big things for me is, okay, so I'm struggling. I'm younger. I'm struggling. I'm looking for ways to get better. I want to achieve more. I want to do more, but I'm struggling and I'm stumbling and I'm hitting these roadblocks and stuff's happening to me. And I'm looking at successful men and I'm going, well, look at that guy. He's, huge movie star, or this guy's the CEO of a billion-dollar company, and this guy, and there was that comparison mode of, well, look how successful they are. Why am I not? And that was the big thing for me, was comparing, right?
Yeah.
And what I realized, and especially when I started to interview these men, was the greatest moments in their life were when they were at their biggest struggle, when they faced their biggest challenge. I've talked to guys where for them it may have been, drugs and alcohol. For some it was they lost everything they had and they were living out of a van for a year, and then made it back and became multimillionaire. It is those moments that we need to take the most value from, right? When we're looking at it now, when you're in it, you're like, oh crap, this is happening to me right now. This sucks. I hate this. I hate my life. I can't go anywhere. And again, when you step back and you look at it and you go, what's the value here? What am I learning? Because every man that I've interviewed on the show, they've learned something from every single challenge they faced, every single screw up, every single loss has moved them forward farther.
Yeah.
So that's really, when we get into this, that's the warrior part of us, is recognizing that challenge, recognizing that struggle, and going, you know what, I got this. And you're just going to keep moving forward, because those are the things that make us who we are. Yeah. So everything, Yifat, that happened to me from when I was younger, including my father not being around at the beginning, I love him for that. And he's passed away. But I love him for that, because what it gave me is invaluable. The lessons I learned there and what I had to go through was invaluable. So look at those lessons, take the value from them, and that'll help move you forward.
Totally. And so when you're looking at the formula that you have in right now, let's dive deep into that. You have 4 archetypes, right? Yeah. Warrior, lover, king, queen, and hero. And I love that you're playing with that, like the warrior and the lover. Let's talk about what each one of them is, and then let's talk about, like, how can you embody both? Because women, I think it's the hardest thing for us to. Well, I don't know. It might be hard for guys as well, right? Like, because strong and feminine. How do you do them both? So how do you do them both?
Yeah, so we'll get into that, because that's really what makes that heroic leader, right? Is being able to balance kind of both of those. So whenever I do this, the first thing I always preface this with, look, I'm going to use the terms masculine and feminine in this. Mm-hmm. Okay. When I say masculine and feminine, I'm talking about the qualities, the energies, the characteristics that are in all of us. I have masculine and feminine in me. You have masculine and feminine in you. I'm not saying male, female. I'm not saying boy, girl. It doesn't mean one's better than the other. They're equal forces, right? So I want everyone to kind of understand that. If you picture the yin yang symbol, you'll get it completely. There is a duality, right? There's both. Mm-hmm. So the warrior, to get into the 4 archetypes real quick, we won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but to get into the 4 archetypes, the warrior, that's your strength, your power, your drive. That's that masculine force. The warrior is the one that gets us past those challenges that I talked about. That's the one that gets us through, these times that we're going through. That's the warrior, is the one that says, all right, there's a pandemic, money is tight, I'm going to make this work, right? That's that driving force. So, there are some words that go along with warrior. Now, understand, when I talk about any of these, there are 2 types of characteristics for each. When I talk about warrior and lover, I'm going to give you both. So they're empowering and limiting. You can be coming from your empowering warrior. That's the one that says, I'm going to get through this no matter what. Doesn't matter what it takes. That is your drive, your power, your boldness, your adventurer. That's the one that gets you through. The limiting side of the warrior, and we see this on the limiting masculine side, would be, being controlling, abusive, the bully. That's the one that during this kind of situation would be, I'm taking everything for myself.
Right.
Nobody else matters. It's only about me, right? That would be the limiting on the warrior side.
So pause for a second, Eric, because I have a question. So, will that, like the one that I'm taking all for myself, could that also just be like lack mentality and not necessarily? So how do you know if it's a lack mentality or just a limiting warrior belief?
Yeah, I mean, and it is. Lack is one of those. So it's just a fear, right? There's a fear base. There isn't going to be any more scarcity. I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Right? I always think about the word scarcity because it's got scare in it, right? There's fear based in scarcity.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's part of it. And so, like I said, the warrior, lover, king, they can all be limiting or empowering. And the key thing is, and we talked about this a minute ago, is taking that step back and seeing which one am I being right now? I know I'm in warrior mode because this is what's going on, but am I being empowering, positive? Or am I being limiting, negative? Okay, so that we'll do that through,
Okay,
both
so
of these.
hold on. So can you bullshit yourself? Because we are very good at this, right?
Sure. Well, you can and you can't, because here's the thing. This is going to screw with you all the time.
Right.
We would say the mind is your biggest enemy.
Yeah.
Right? The ego, the mind, that's going to be your biggest enemy. Your heart is always going to tell you the truth. Right? So a really empowered warrior comes from here. Really empowered lover comes from here. Kings and queens speak from the heart. You've seen this. Right? They're not talking out of their head. They're talking from the heart. And so that's really, if you're bullshitting yourself, it's coming from here. That's check number one. Am I coming from my head, or am I really feeling into what's the best thing right now, right? How much do I really need? Am I hoarding, or am I getting what I need because I know there'll be more coming, right?
Yeah.
That kind of mentality.
Love it. Love it. So if you're heart centered and if you're feeling it, so let's talk about that for a second. If I'm want to be, you're talking from your head, not from your heart, and your heart is like terrified, right, of everything that's happening right now. How do you? I know, like, sensing yourself and kind of like coming and feeling is one step. Is there another way to kind of like, I know I'm freaking out right now, I'm shaking all over my body, but how do I, step into the empowering?
Feel it. Feel it. You're in it, right? So feel everything. Don't deny it, and don't say, no, I'm not really afraid. I'm not really afraid. If you're, fear is an amazing, amazing thing. Fear is what's kept us alive, right? Darwin, if you think about it, survival of the fittest, but it's also, if you have that fight or flight and something's telling you to run, right? So
that's the first thing of like martial arts, right? First thing, if you can't run, if you can't,
To really take a look at, is it irrational fear, right? Yeah. Is it like, oh my God, this is never going to end and the world's coming to an end? That's an irrational fear.
Yeah.
The fear is, look, I'm running on limited resources right now and I need to find a way to do it. To me, that fear then becomes fuel, right? Because if I look at it and go, well, I'm really afraid that I'm going to run out of stuff. I'm really thinking, something's not right here. That then becomes the fuel for me to go, well, then I got to tap into that warrior mode and get moving. I've got to find what it is that I'm going to do and get moving. So that, we look at fear as something that's negative. If you're afraid, if you come from it, from taking a step back and looking at it, that fear is telling you something, and it can become your fuel.
I love it. And which is also what a lot of people are looking for right now. They're looking for someone who knows what to do, who can take that step, that bold step, and actually lead them and be like, this is what you need to do, right? And so that's the warrior. The warrior, I know what I'm doing. I know how I'm going to get it done. And I'm going to conquer those, whatever challenges are in front of me. And then you're leading it into the lover. So let's talk about the warrior moving into the lover.
Yeah. So the lover, warrior for most of us is really easy, right? And especially for men. I shouldn't say not women, but men really can tap into their warrior really well. And you and I had a conversation earlier about, women finding their warrior. Women are amazing at finding their warrior, right? Yeah. We talked about, you had the word conquering came up and you said, I don't know as a woman if I've ever conquered. And I said, well, you conquer fear, right? You conquered what you had to do to get this show going. So you can tap into that. That's usually easy for us. The lover then becomes, it's a little bit harder for men, but the lover is
Don't
really
we know it?
What's that?
Don't we know it?
Yeah. Well, that's a different show.
That's right.
Do that one next time, okay? But for purposes of this in leadership, the lover is really coming from here, right? That's when you learn to really come from the heart. That's where passion comes from. That's the real empowering feminine force. So if we lead with the masculine, that drive, that ambition, that all of that stuff that gets us moving forward, the lover is what comes in behind it and really gets everything growing, flourishing, thriving. That all comes in behind it. So you have this creativity and this passion and this nurturing, this wisdom. That's all from the lover. And that really is what comes in and makes things happen, right? The warrior part of you taps in, breaks through the inertia, crushes all the challenges you have, overcomes the obstacles, and then that lover comes in and lets everything kind of grow and flourish. So if you look at it that way, it's a really powerful combination, leading with your warrior, coming in, supporting with your lover. And again, lover has empowering and limiting as well, right? So some of the empowering things, and I'm looking at my little cheat sheet here for a second, but it's, wise, supportive, empathetic, devoted, creative, playful, all those fun things. The limiting side is that needy, whiny, withholding, helpless, right? So we talked about, what do you do when there's fear? You can either tap into, I'm feeling really helpless right now. I don't know what to do.
Right.
I'm looking for a leader. I want the government to tell me what to do.
Right.
Versus, I'm going to get creative and then tap back into my warrior and make something happen. Can you understand what I'm saying there?
Totally. And I love that because I love it, and I'm trying to kind of like picture it. So as a business owner or myself, right? You have to get the warrior mindset of like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and this is how we're gonna do it, and team, this is what's in front of us. And I'm having a little challenge going like, okay, from I'm very assertive, I know what I'm doing, we're gonna conquer it. How do you kind of like transform into the lover inside the I know what to do and I'm doing it right now?
Right. So when you can really kind of tie your warrior and lover together, that's when you get into the king and queen archetype, right? That's really what the king and queen are. They are the leaders who have that warrior mindset, but also have that love for the people that are around them. So when you're coming from that, when that's your intention, is we're going to get this thing done together. We're going to get it done as a team. And you lead from, like you said, you have that warrior, you have that mindset, and then you have, how do you follow with the lover? That's that's a big problem for a lot of leaders. That's where we run into this. And that's when I find when I work with women, especially, a woman's biggest thing when they come to me, they say their biggest challenge is, how do I come across as a leader, but not being bitchy, bossy, overbearing? Well, that's the limiting side, right?
Yeah.
So for women, their fear is, I don't want to become across as too, motherly or, that kind of thing. And for men, they don't want to come across as weak or a pushover or any of that. So when you look at the list of the empowering, from the lover, the empowering feminine, it is that creativity, that support, all of that. So I'll give you an example.
Yes, please.
If you come to someone and you say to them, Yifat, I need you to do this by 10 o'clock on Monday, and it better get done or else there's going to be, disciplinary action. How does that land on you?
I am going to freak out and be like, okay, you're an ass, and the hell with it. I'm going to get it done, and then I'm out.
Right. Exactly. Because there's nothing behind it. It's just coming from pure warrior. And this is why we need that balance within us. That's why the king and the queen understand this. So if I said to you, Yifat, look, I need this thing done by Monday. It has to get done. There is no other way it's going to happen. But I really believe that you can get it done. And if there's any way that I can support you or I can bring in resources for you to help you get there, I'm behind you 100%. We'll make sure it gets done. How does that land on you?
I love it. I take responsibility and ownership, and I feel like this is my thing. And even if I don't do it 100%, I still have your back. So I'm very comfortable at like, okay, we'll do this together.
Right, because it had that support behind it, right?
Yeah.
There's that sense of, okay, they believe in me. They understand that it's coming. They're going to be there to support if I need it. I don't feel like I'm alone or my team is alone and we're not just kind of out here on an island.
Yeah.
We're going to get this thing done together. So that really, that's why that comes. And that's why it's important. Number one, feel how it felt when I led with the warrior and then supported with the lover, right? The warrior is direct, decisive, and to the point. And then the lover comes in and supports. If you do it flipped, it can also land wrong, even if you're coming from empowering. Like if I came to you and said, Yifat, hey, listen, you're doing such a great job here and everybody really likes you and the work you put in is great. But, I have this project and I know this sucks, but on Monday, it has to be done and you're just going to have to get it done or else. I mean, there's no other way around it. What are we going to do? How does that feel when someone comes to you like that?
I'll be like, man, I don't know why I'm following this dude. He doesn't know what he's saying.
It's very it's very wishy-washy. It's very weak. It's limp. It's almost apologetic at the beginning. It's not really empowering. I'm not getting anybody going.
Right.
Right. when you start out from your warrior, you tap into their warrior, right? If I'm coming from mine to you, right? Now and I'm looking at my team as, hey, my team's a bunch of kings and queens, man. They got their warrior, they got their lover. They know what they're doing.
Right.
I'm coming from that. I'm tapping into theirs from the beginning. I want to get them fired up from the beginning. I want to get you fired up from the beginning and then let you know, hey, you're appreciated, you're supported, you're not in this alone, and we can go that way. So that's why I always tell the leaders that I work with, come from that warrior first, but always make sure to support with that lover, that feminine, that beautiful feminine, empowering at the end of it, because that really, gets people moving forward, and that'll motivate them, that'll inspire them.
I love it, and I'm wondering, how does that work for women? And before you answer, I see a lot of you are here with us in Zoom. I love it. If you guys want to jump into the conversation and say, share how you're leading, if you have your own leadership questions, do you feel like you're more in the warrior or more in the lover? Raise your hand in Zoom or just comment in the chat and I'll bring you in so we can talk to you about this in your own business. You can get the benefit of being here live. And so for a woman, a lot of people say women usually start with, I'm sorry, I don't want to offend you. Forgive me for saying this. I don't want to come on too blunt, but I kind of have, they're starting with apologizing for what they're about to say and saying it. How can a woman come and say hey, Eric, I need this done by tomorrow and I'm here for you without sounding like I'm bossing you around? Because for a guy to have a strong female partner is a bit of a challenge, isn't it? Unless you're a king or a hero, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, I mean, it can be difficult for some men. But I mean, that's their own, kind of stuff going on in here. I mean, I work with, I worked in one company where I was the only man, and it was all women executives.
Oh, wow.
And they were wonderful. Some of them were, some of them weren't. But for the most part, they were wonderful. The last team that I ran in corporate USA was all women, and they were fantastic. So I don't really buy into the fact that it's difficult for women, because what you just said when you came in and said the second part of it, the more direct part, that to me sounds fine. Hey, I need you to get this done, and here's what we're going to do to support you. That's where the key is in that supporting on the second half.
Yeah.
And not coming at it, because the first way you said it, right, that was exactly the same thing that I did. It was that weak, wishy-washy. So what I find with anyone, I'm not going to just say women, but what I find with men too is when they lead with that, they come across as weak from the beginning, and then they try to assert over that with being more powerful at the end. Hey, I'm really sorry I have to do this, and it's kind of whatever, but I need it now, right? They get they overcompensate, and then it comes off in that limiting masculine, limiting warrior, where it's overbearing and bullying and unreasonable. So you see how you're kind of flopping back and forth with all of that. So that's why, being aware before you say something of what it is you're going to say, making sure it doesn't land wrong, is to, all right, I'm going to lead with my warrior. I'm going to support with my lover, come in with my direct masculine, support with my divine feminine, and let's get this thing moving. And that's what's going to inspire people. And that works whether you're a man or a woman, because, like I said, we're all in this. We all
we're humans.
Are afraid of becoming, looking weak or looking bullying or overbearing, bossy, that kind of thing.
Can we play that in a relationship between partners and between mom and parents? So if I'm like, hey, Leo, go clean your room, because I need to clean your room, and then what would be the lover? And if you need support, I'm here cheering for you. What would you say?
Well, no, you could say to him, look, you've done it before. You did a great job. I loved how it looked the last time you did it. And and once you do that, it would be great to have space in your room to play and have a good time. I'll come in, we'll play a video game, or we'll paint something, or you understand what I mean? It's it can be anything, because there's so much in that lover and that feminine that's just so beautiful, right? Yeah. Playfulness, creativity, appreciation, passion, all of it goes in there. So anything that you can add to that afterwards brings it. And to jump to the first part of the question is, this works everywhere. I mean, we're talking about leadership. Most people think of it in terms of corporate. Right. With business and teams, but you can be a leader in your family. You can be a leader with you're looked up to be a leader for your kids, right? That's what they're looking for. They want that role model. They want that discipline. They want that guidance. So when you're coming at it from in this way, you'd be very, very surprised. Kids, they know from the beginning when you're bullshitting them.
Yeah.
They know if you're saying like, hey, honey, oh, wow, you look really good today. Oh, no, I saw your thing. Here's what I need. We know, right? It triggers us, right? We know the meter just gets pinned all the way to the red. We know you're coming up with something. So just tell us the beginning and then bring that beautiful support in at the end.
So you would do that the same with a partner. Hey, honey, I need you to take down the trash, and I will be here when you get back with a smile on my face.
Yeah, it's funny. I do a lot of relationship coaching too, and one of the biggest things that I find from women, what they tell me, and this was fascinating to me. One of the biggest things was they would say, I'd say to them, does your husband, who makes the decisions in the family?
Right.
And she would say, oh, I guess I do. And the man in the relationship typically would say something like, well, I want to be a nice and I want to let her make the decision. So they'll say things like, she'll say, what do you want to have for dinner tonight? Oh, honey, whatever you want. You make whatever you want. What movie do you want to see? Oh, you pick. I don't care. You pick the movie. Whatever. And the guy thinks he's being a nice guy.
Right.
But you're not. You're being in your feminine. And that causes her to have to step into her masculine, into her warrior, and make the decision. Mm-hmm. They don't like doing that, right? Women are amazing creatures. You will step into your masculine if your partner is not.
Right.
And that becomes a big danger, right? And the women that I talked to, they were like, oh my God, I never realized this. I'm making every decision in the household and it's driving me insane. I don't want to do that. I would love for my husband to come home and go, babe, here's what we're doing tonight. I'm going to take you out to dinner. We're going to this place. So wear that dress that I love, right? Masculine, feminine. Warrior lover, wear that dress that I love. You look so beautiful in it. After that, we're going to do this. And then we're going to come home and we're going to have wine on the back patio, right? They love that. People in general love that because it's decisive. Then it's followed up by the lover. Then it's another decision. Then the lover, and it goes down. Totally. And if you're communicating this way, it ends a lot of the confusion. It ends a lot of the people getting, kind of triggered in that, oh, some bullshit's coming. And it gets them to feel like, hey, I'm loved here. There is this, there's a strong person that I'm with and they really care about me. That's what goes through the mind when you follow that warrior lover and take it that way.
I love it. I love it. And then you're also talking about the difference between lovers, right? Like leaders that lead just for themselves, and then leaders. And when you move to the lover, you're actually empowering others into becoming the leaders and the heroes in their own life. But you're saying there's like also values, like core values that a lover and a hero, king and a queen follow, right? Embedding in their everyday life that puts them on a mission, right? So what is that mission that a leader puts up for himself that they can actually help other people as well?
Yeah. That's actually kind of a two-part thing here, right? So we're talking about when you get your warrior and your lover aligned, right? You've got that power and that passion, and then you've got that, or the power and the drive, and then you've got that passion and creativity that goes in behind it. That's when you integrate those two, that's really when you become king or queen, right? And the king and queen, they are, they've gone beyond, or no, I shouldn't say that yet. The king and queen have developed a very healthy ego, right? Mm-hmm. Now, we talk about ego, and again, duality can be positive or negative. And if you're looking at positive ego, that is high self-esteem, a lot of confidence, right? And you have to kind of have a big ego to be a leader.
Yeah.
Right? You have to. I mean, I have to have a big ego to be on this show with you. You had to have a big ego to create this show in the first place and say, you know what? I have something to say. I'm going to make a show and interview people. Mm-hmm. Right? And then I had to say, I have something to say, and I'm going to come on this show and deliver incredible value to the people who are listening. That's a healthy ego, right? You're very self-confident, very self-assured in yourself, and that's where the king and queen come in. When you move past that, the hero becomes looking past their own ego and then into developing the egos of others, right? And that's where we really become the hero. And it's interesting because of all things, I was watching the movie Aquaman when it came out.
Oh yeah.
And there's a line in Aquaman where, I don't know, she's trying to get the princess with the red hair. I can't remember her name. She's trying to get Aquaman
Ariel, maybe?
I don't know. Trying to get him to fight, right? And he said, and she said something about being the king or whatever. I'm not the king. And she said something to me. He goes, well, what's greater than a king? And she said, a hero. Because a king fights only for his people. A hero fights for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is when you move out of, okay, I've kind of satiated all this. I've gotten what I need as a king or as a queen. Now I'm going to do this for others. That's the hero leadership, heroic leadership. So if you look at it, and you said mission, it's been for a long time. I'm blanking now about the book on leadership, where it was first said that leaders serve, right? Your biggest job as a leader is to serve, right? And serve those who work for you. And I get that, but I want to take it a step further. And if you make it your mission as a heroic leader, that you're going to make everyone on your team better than you are. You're going to bring them into their own king and queen. You're going to create kings and queens who eventually become heroes. And if that becomes your mission, and now your job is no longer, well, I don't want Susie getting too good because she might take my job, right? That's fear-based. That's limited. If your thing is, hey, I want to help Susie become the boss, because if she becomes or takes my place, either I'm going to find something better or I'm going to move up the ladder, right? They're going to promote me because I'm creating all these amazing, amazing people to work here.
Yeah.
So feel into it that way. That's when you become that heroic leader. You've aligned your warrior and lover and integrated them to become the king or queen. And then you've moved past that and gotten into, now from heroic, from my inner hero, I'm moving past me and my own ego, and I'm going to help them tap into their king and queen and become heroes.
So how many people do you know that are actually heroes, or even at the king and queen level?
There are a lot of them. There are a lot of people. In hero, that's a tough one because, I've talked about this with Rob a bunch of times. And, when you look at it, there's really two types. There's people who are heroic on a daily basis. I would say military, first responders, those kind of people. That's, teachers to me are heroic. Doctors right now, medical people right now, what we're going on, what they're doing every single day is absolutely heroic. I mean, to go into hospitals and knowing people with this virus are coming in,
and I'm not
doing it.
Yeah.
That's just heroic, right? So that's like a day-to-day heroism. Then there is that in the moment, this needs to be done right now, and you drop everything and just go and do, right? And those are, people who have won, awards, honors, like Medal of Honor recipients come to mind, like during wartime when they just selflessly did something so incredibly beyond what the human mind would think you're capable of. There's those acts of heroism as well. So when you look at it from the first part, there are heroes everywhere around us, man. It's just recognizing the hero in each other. And the only way to really do that is you got to recognize the hero in yourself and what you're doing every day. Like, you could be a hero with your kid.
Yeah,
right.
I could. If he lets me, I will be the hero. He thinks he's got it all figured out. He's 10. He's good.
I love what you said there. If he lets me, right? That's the very limiting kind of feminine lover, right? If he lets me, rather than, hey, I'm here for this. I'm tapping into my empowering warrior. I'm going to motivate him and get him moving, right? See the difference?
There you go. I like it. You just education on the fly. So let's just talk about just the core values for a second, because you are living by certain core values. And my first question is, how do you know what your core values are? Because we're not you're not raised with like, hey, I'm an honest person. It's my value and I'll never lie. Even when someone calls in and I say, I'm not in, I'll never lie.
the little white lie.
The little lie.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because, this kind of idea of core values was introduced to me. I think for the most part, a lot of us have values that we live by, but we're not consciously directing ourselves to live by them daily, right? So I've interviewed, like I said, on the podcast, a lot of guys, and I'll give them the list of our core values, right? So the core values that we have in the podcast and in, the groups that I'm in, and we talk about them, they are courage at the very base, right? The very first core value is courage, because without courage, you have nothing. You can't move forward. You can't tap into your warrior. You can't achieve anything. So courage is the first. We go into honesty and integrity, then commitment, duty, honor, and love. Those are the 7. when I send these to the men that I've interviewed, they're like, wow, Eric, I'm really glad you sent this to me because, looking through the list, I really appreciate all of these. And I've been living a lot of them, but not on a conscious level and not with purpose and discernment, right? Not going, this is what I'm going to live by. And so I think as a leader, if you don't have a set of core values for yourself, that you're kind of consciously living by day to day, it's really hard for your team or the people that you're leading to really see that. They want to see that courage in you, that honesty, that you're always going to be honest with them,
Right.
that you're living in integrity, right? So for us, integrity is you are who you are in public, the same as you are in private, right? Commitment is your commitment in everything. I committed to you to do this show.
Yeah.
If I had just called you 15 minutes ahead of time and said, you know what, Yifat, there's tons of crap going on and I'm not really feeling it. I'm not living my commitments, right? My duty, one of the things for me, duty is, bringing as much value as I can to people, making better leaders, creating heroes.
Yeah.
And then honoring the people who are heroes. I love that. I'm watching stories online that bring me to tears every day. Just the heroic acts people are doing. And then love, right? And love's the ultimate, just like courage is the base at the bottom. Without it, you have nothing. We wrap it with that love. And if you don't have love, pure, beautiful, unadulterated love for yourself and for others, you cannot be a heroic leader at all.
Right.
So look at the list, look for things that make you feel, right? You'll know what they are.
Yeah.
And adopt those as your core values.
And live by them every day.
Live by them.
Live by them. We have a comment on Twitch actually from I don't know the guy's name because it's a user's name, but he's saying that I love the talk. You make a lot of sense. I love listening to you. And that would be horrible to cancel 15 minutes before going live. What do you know? That happened to me before. There are people like that. So yeah, I really appreciate people who have values and don't cancel and actually stick to their word. That's a biggie one, right? Isn't it? Like just say what you'll do and do what you say. How hard is that?
Yeah, and that's integrity as well, too, right? Like if I give you my word, I know I'm in integrity. If I say to you, yes, I will do the show Thursday, April 2nd at 2 p.m. Eastern time. I will be there.
Yep.
And if I knew in my head, I really didn't want to do it, but I'm telling her that because I want to be nice or I want to, I don't want to say no, right? I'm not being that warrior. I'm not being discerned. And I'm not living in integrity with myself because I know that I'm lying and I'm not keeping commitments. And keeping those commitments is so, so important. So important. So yeah, I appreciate that comment. Really.
Yeah. And it's, there's, again, I'm sure you heard that joke before where if a woman asks a guy to do something, he'll do it. You don't have to remind him every 6 months, right?
That's good. That's good. And again, it's also why, we have that reputation, right? So when those, they say the truest things are said in jest.
Yep.
So if, it's, if they're saying jokes like that, there's some reason behind it. There are a lot of people, not just men, but there are a lot of people who are not of their word, who cannot commit just even to little. There was a challenge somebody told me, God, it was one of my guests on the podcast. I really wish I could remember it, but it was about, and if somebody remembers, please put it in the comments, remind me, but it was about keeping your word for, I think it was 7 days or 10 days.
Oh.
Keep your word, make a promise, keep your word. And they said most people can't get past 2 or 3 days without breaking a commitment.
Really?
Really. And I was fascinated by that. So try something very, very interesting. Try that.
So
it was, try to keep a commitment for, every single day, make a commitment every day and keep it for a week, 2 weeks, whatever it was. And most people found that they couldn't do it.
I actually believe that. So it depends on the commitment, right? I'm like, okay, I'm going to work out for 7 days. Maybe I won't be able to do that, right? But I'll watch Netflix for every day. Probably I will be able to do that.
Right. Tiger King, right? You get hooked into that thing.
No.
Man, that dragged me down a hole for a few days, right?
Right. I haven't even gotten into this because, let me bring in Stuart. Stuart, let me unmute you, buddy. And then anyone, if you want to jump in and have a conversation in real time and share with us how this is resonating with you, do that. And also, I want to remind you, you can download this really great quick start guide, which is what I was showing you throughout the show right here. Those in here cannot see it, but those who are watching us, this guide, you can download it for free, and it has all the information that you need. It's right here on thatgeek.com/live, right to the right of the video. Click on it, download it, and you'll be good. So Stuart, let's see where you are, buddy. Here you are. How are you?
I'm alive and kicking and above the grass. I always think that's positive.
It is positive. How's it resonating with you?
I one side comment, and then I have a question. Did I hear early in this that you actually told Eric that you had a question at some point about your courage or your ability to just jump out and lead? I don't remember. I was going to write down the phrase, but
that was the conquering, wasn't it? When you said to me that you didn't know if the feminine could conquer, right? Tap into the warrior and conquer. And that's when I said, you've done it all the time, right? Every challenge you've ever faced, you've conquered, right? So that's where that comes from. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Yifat, someday we're going to do a show based on your autobiographical background.
Oh my God.
And I've known you well enough and long enough for a long time. These people don't know who they're talking to. They really don't, Yifat. I mean, you did, never mind. The thing that hit me, Eric, that sort of stopped me for just a little bit, and this is a matter of interpretation maybe, but when you use the example of the husband who's totally into his feminine and forces all the decision making on the woman for a dinner or whatever, that's about as inappropriate as it gets, because God, talk about putting pressure on her. But I have to tell you, my last serious relationship was with a little blonde who was 5'1" on a good day. And if I'd have walked in and laid down a list of what we were going to do that evening, that definitively, she'd have got basketball legs and jumped up and whacked me on the side of the head. I think there has to be maybe a little middle ground in there somewhere.
Stuart, I don't know. You like the feisty ones, don't you?
Oh, I'm not known for being with quiescent women. No.
Right. So she had her warrior on in that, which is great, because I like that too. I mean, I understand that, and I like that.
Well, she's got her kids at show and tell one year when they were in elementary school. They had to bring in a picture of show and tell, and it was a picture of their mother having two kids, because the cars were broke down and the husband was gone, and on the back of a chopper wheeling it into the school. And she gave up the bikes right after that, but not the ability to defend her family or herself.
Sure.
And that's the hero in her.
Yeah.
She was a true hero. She was a cardiac rehab therapist, and I thought I knew her really well. And we were sitting together one evening, and she was telling me a tragic story about someone that I knew that was a patient of hers. And she said something about I cried. And I was, you cried? She goes, Stuart, I cry every day. Wow. Talk about opening up a whole other side of understanding.
Sure. She showed you her vulnerable side at that point, right? So you got deeper into where her lover was at that point, right?
Well, that, and I knew I was living with a hero.
Yeah, exactly. Because she had the both. She had the warrior, the lover. She was living as a queen and doing heroic things, right?
Absolutely. And I did my best to live up to it right until she kicked me to the curb.
Well, listen, I want to address something that you said, because I want to make it clear for everyone that was listening, because I really appreciate the question and the comment about if you had come to her that way, she'd have jumped up and smacked you. So think about it when you're doing this. Am I coming from the empowering side of that warrior or the limiting? And there's a line between being decisive, which is why we follow it with the lover, and being overbearing, domineering, hitting her with directives, saying, this is what we're going to do, versus, hey, I had a great idea. Tonight, we're going to go to dinner, blah, 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 wear that dress, do whatever, following it back and forth. Then it comes across as, you making a decision, taking something, doing it for her? Does it sound different?
Yes, no, I completely understand the characterization you're making here. No, that makes perfect sense. And it also works for clients too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. For clients, sure.
No matter how bad the situation the client's in, there has to be some, to a certain degree, some ability to qualify your reaction or your solution to the client. You can't just dictate, this is how we're going to do this.
Correct. Right. That's why you have to follow it. That's why it's so important, because then you come off, like you said, a dictator, a bully. But when you give reason and support and, the passion, creativity, the whatever it may be on that lover side, that's what gets everybody moving in the same direction.
Well, Yifat, thanks again for bringing someone to the fore that I had not known before and will know more of now.
Yeah. And so actually, speaking of that, Eric, let's just talk for a second about the summit that you are putting together for men, and let people know where they can get more of you. And then we'll bring in Paul, just nod if you want, and Ron, just nod if you want to come in, and we'll bring you in. So
sure.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Before I get to that, Yifat, just one real quick thing, because it kind of plays off what Stuart just said. Mm-hmm. And so this is a great kind of segue, because it was one of the bullet points we gave, and it was the incredible benefits of letting your team tell you you're an asshole.
Yes. And remember I love that we can say asshole on the show. You can't do that.
Sure.
Why not?
But yeah, and this is the one thing that most people, they kind of go, wait a minute, what? And I took over a team a couple of years ago. And one of the first things I said to them was, and I want to let you guys know that if I am ever being an asshole, you have absolute permission to come into my office, close the door, and say, Eric, you are being an asshole right now. So, and they looked at me shocked, like, what are you talking about? Like, I would never tell my boss he's being an asshole. I'm like, well, not your boss, your leader. And in being a leader, I want to make sure that all of our communication is clear. So like what Stuart brought up when he said, if you can say it a certain way, it lands wrong. So by me saying to my team, hey, listen, you guys, if you ever think that I'm an asshole, or I give you something to do and it doesn't feel right, or you have my permission to come in, there will be no repercussions. There are absolutely no repercussions for saying to me face to face, adult to adult, you're being an asshole. So what is the benefit of that? And it's this. If you don't have the power and permission to come tell me I'm an asshole, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to get pissed off. It's going to sit with you. You're not going to do what I told you to do, because you're going to resist it and hate it and not want to come in on it. And the biggest thing is, you're going to want to tell somebody I'm an asshole. So instead of telling me, you're going to tell everybody else on the team or in the company or in the family or on the client list or whatever it may be. You're going to tell all of them, shit, Eric was just an asshole. I want to stop all that, because it's so easy when you're doing this, and so easy, even in any kind of communication, for there to be a miscommunication or for it to land wrong on the person. Mm-hmm. And I found that if they just come in and say, here's what I heard, and I have the opportunity to say, okay, hold on. Here's what I said. Here's what I meant. Here's the intention behind it. It clears it up like that. And then everybody's happy. There's no spreading of things through the team. This person doesn't become a problem or an issue, and everybody can move forward. And I have just a real quick story on it.
Yeah, please.
I have a buddy of mine, Chris, and we were working on a project a few years ago, and we were working on a project together. And then he had a similar project he was working on by himself. And he sent me a very excited text late one night. He lives in Las Vegas, so he was on a different time zone. It was late one night, sent me this text, and he goes, dude, I got to tell you, this is amazing. I just got this doctor, this leading scientist, to come on and be, on the project. And I said, oh, cool. That's great. I didn't know who the guy was. I'm, Googling him while he's telling me. And I go, oh, that's great. And then I said, well, shouldn't I meet him first before you put him in the project? And he's like, no. And that struck me. I'm like, why no? It's my project. I'm leading this project. Why wouldn't I okay somebody? He just signed this guy and didn't even tell me. And I was like, hey, Chris, I really think I should talk to him before you make a final decision. And he wrote back and he was like, I don't know why I need your permission to put somebody on this project.
Ouch.
So now it's going back and forth and now it's escalating, right?
Right.
So I'm like, well, screw this guy. So I got pissed off. Then I looked at it and I go, wait a minute. I wrote him back and I said, Chris, what project are you talking about? And he said his project. So I go, oh man. So this whole time I'm thinking he's trying to usurp me and put, he's made a decision on my project that we're working on together. And he's reading my text and thinking I'm somehow inserting myself into a project I have nothing to do with.
Right.
And the two of us are going at it thinking the other one's an asshole. And when we stepped back and really looked at it, that's all it was a miscommunication. Somebody just had to say, hey, which project are we talking about?
Right.
So that's the value of doing that and saying, look, you're not going to get in trouble if you tell me I'm an asshole. I want you to tell me.
So has anyone ever come forth and said, hey, Eric, you're an asshole?
You mean in a business sense or just friends of mine that, just...
Just in general, right? In a business
Yeah.
sense,
Oh, no, all the time. Time. When I have a team and I tell them that, and here's the thing that happens. The first time that someone has enough taps into their warrior and says, yeah, I'm going to go tell Eric just now he was, and they don't say it in that way. Like they won't come in and go, sit down, you're an asshole. They'll go, hey, you said something today and what you gave us to do, and I'm not really feeling it, like something feels off. They'll kind of put it that way.
Yeah.
We talk through it and it's like, oh, okay, I got it now. And I might see that I said something and I didn't maybe support enough with my lover or bring in enough of that support, that feminine of mine to come in at the end of it. It may have come across as bossy or overbearing, or sometimes the limiting feminine can take over and it might be unsure, confusing. So once that clears up, they're fine. And what I found happens is when the first person does that and they go back to the rest of the team and they go, oh, wow, I got it. I spoke to him. Everything's cool.
Yeah.
It makes it easier for everyone else to do. They realize you're not going to get in trouble. It's not a big thing. It's actually a positive.
So now you're getting an avalanche of like, hey, Eric, you're an asshole.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes. But look, I'd much rather have that and there to be clarity as a leader that I'm clear. I'd much rather have that than there to be like this uncertainty and chatter going on and confusion and whatnot. Think of which one is way more valuable, way more efficient, and is going to get the job done faster.
Right, totally. We are getting to over an hour because time flew and it's already been an hour. But I do want to have, Paul, do you want to jump in? Just nod or not, and Ron. So how about Ron first? Because Ron, you're the one who's telling, where are you? Here you are. You're the one telling Eric he's an asshole all the time, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey, Ron,
it goes back and forth.
So yeah, Ron's my brother, by the way, for those of you that are watching who don't know me. So
and wondering why would he tell you you're an asshole all the time?
Sure.
So how's it sitting with you, Ron? Any feedback or anything?
No, I mean, this is great. I mean, Eric's talking about like mentors and, whether he knows it or not, he's pretty much become a role model to me.
Oh, nice.
Just everything he's been doing is just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. It's very nice, actually, on a side note, Eric, it's very nice to have a guest that is as responsive, as funny, as, communicative as you are. We don't have many of those. Most of our guests are very short and you have to chase them a lot, and you are super responsible, and it's been fun getting ready for this show.
Hey, well, I appreciate that. That's great. And again, that there's two things that come from that. One is, again, living by that core value of commitment, right? I made the commitment to you. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it excellent because I want to do everything with excellence. So it's going to be done the right way. And then, Ron, when you say that, it brings up something. I mean, first of all, it brings up a lot of emotion in me. So I appreciate you saying that because, that just went right here. And what it also brings up is that, a lot of us, and I found this out from the men that I've interviewed on the podcast, a lot of them have said, once they got through the interview, they were like, you know what, Eric, I never realized how many lives I touched. I never sat down and thought about what it is that I've brought to other people, right? So, to hear that from Ron, like, I didn't know that, right? Wow. So, we're doing what we're doing, but it's knowing deep down you're making that impact and that you are a mentor. A lot of us don't get that feedback. So you've got to kind of feed that in here to yourself that this is what I'm doing. I am being a mentor. I'm being a guide. I'm being a role model and moving forward. And that for me personally, it's what keeps me going.
I love that. And it's true. It is true. You don't know how many lives you touch until you die. And then it's like, oh man.
All right, it's after you die, then they give the eulogy that you know.
Right.
Yeah. Oh wow, really? Wow, they thought that of me. Fantastic.
Yeah. And then you have no way to be like, thanks. So, Paul, let's bring you in and kind of like almost end with you. How are you, my friend? Like, oh, you can't unmute. Hold on. Where are you? Where are you? Da, da, da. Here you are. Ta-da. Hey. Now I can hear you. Oh, did you unmute it? Hold on. There you go.
Now we got it?
Yeah,
now
we got it. Now we got it.
I was
Hey,
like,
Paul.
I can't unmute it. Hey, Eric.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm just, Eric's been fantastic today. And so I have very little to add. I'm just glad that I get to be part of his event. And I'm looking forward to seeing all these other fantastic speakers and seeing how people derive some joy and some learning and some growth from this event. I think it's very, very cool.
Yeah. So you know what, Paul, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, Paul's going to be one of our guest experts on the event. So I know you brought it up a minute ago, Yifat, so I'll mention it now, but coming very, very soon. And it probably after I get off this call, we're going to launch the site, but hold back. If you want information on it, go grab the download.
Magnet.
Go
Yes.
grab that because you'll be on my list. I'll send you the email, but we're doing a thing called the Complete Man Summit. Now, you know, women are absolutely invited, but, you know, men for me, and I told you about my personal journey, have become a thing for me to mentor other men, become a role model for other men. And, you know, in doing the podcast, everything, I found all these men who are amazing, and Paul included. And so what I decided to do was put together an online virtual summit, which for right now is perfect because you don't have to shake hands with anybody. You don't have to go
Right.
anywhere. You're not sitting in a conference room. You can watch from your computer. And it's going to be coming up in a few weeks, called the Complete Man Summit. And it is going to be 30 plus experts in 5 areas that are really, really vital to men becoming better men, really stepping into their own greatness as leaders. And that's, you know, in business, wealth, and finance. We're going to have guys from health and fitness. I just did a phenomenal interview yesterday with a guy named Clark Bartram, who is phenomenal. You've seen him. He's been on every fitness magazine cover, and he talks about mindset in fitness. And we're going to do relationships and dating, so stuff like this, and then lifestyle. And then we're going to talk about the inner man coming from here, being more mindful, more grounded. We're going to get into that. My own personal mentor, Rob, is going to be involved. We're going to do a thing on there. And for those of you that have watched my podcast, you know, the round table, the men of the round table are going to do individual sessions. And then one is a group. It's entirely free to watch. It's all going to be recorded video, so you can watch it as much as you want. And again, yeah, Complete Man Summit. It's coming in May. And the site will be up very soon where you can log in, register, get your free pass, and come. It's going to be phenomenal. And yeah, Paul has committed, and we're doing our session on Sunday, right, Paul?
Yeah, he's nodding. Yes.
Oh, he's not. Oh, he's nodding.
He
Okay,
is nodding,
remember, I
yes.
can't see, so.
Yeah. Let's finish with this one because we are talking about leadership, and right now most of the leaders, and correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about this. Most of the leaders are men, or are we seeing, you know, like is it becoming kind of like half and half out there? What is it?
I don't think it has anything to do with sex, what sex you are at all. I've seen phenomenal, incredible leaders in women and in men. I don't, even, I'm not even going to try to give a statistic that says there's this many are women. People are leaders when they're leaders. And I'm seeing women all around me stepping up and doing incredible things during this pandemic.
Yeah.
For their families, for their kids, single moms doing unbelievable things. I watch Maria, and she's my executive producer, and she's very close to me. We're in a relationship, and the things that she's doing, it's going on with her family and everything while this is happening is just, to me, is an amazing thing. She's stepping up as a leader. Yeah. Government leaders, a lot of them are women. I'm watching some of these, incredible women step up and say things. So, no, I don't think it's a 50-50 thing. I think it's as it comes. And because we all have this inner hero in us, we all do. And we're all on that hero's journey together. Individually, we're on our own hero's journey, and we're learning from the journeys of others. Yeah. So, yeah, it's not a man-woman thing. I think it's just leaders appear when leaders appear. When the student is ready, the leader will come, right? Yeah. It's funny because I wanted to add this because it's I was just watching a movie the other night, and a quote came on. It said, "The greatest thing a leader can do is pass on what you have learned." So that goes back to that heroic mission, right?
Was that Lucy? Did you watch Lucy?
No, but you know what's funny? But this is where it was Yoda, and I was watching The Last Jedi because they're doing like Star Wars marathons on TV. I just happened to have it on in the background. I heard the greatest thing you can do as a leader is to teach, is to pass on what you have learned. And I thought, that's it. Why, yeah, of course, Yoda.
Yeah.
Of course, it was Yoda that
Of
said
course,
that.
it's Yoda. Which is amazing about Yoda because he's also, you know, in brand story, how you run, how you tell your story brand, right? Donald Miller is also using Yoda and Luke and the whole hero journey. How do you become the guide? So I love how you tie it all together.
Sure, you can pick any of those stories. Doesn't matter. You could look at Iron Man. You could look at any of the Avengers. You can look at Star Trek and Captain Kirk. You can look. I mean, just any of the. And you can look at myths. Look at Perseus and Hercules and all of these guys. Even in the Bible, you can look at Jesus. You can look at his disciples. You can look at anybody in any story, and this lends itself to that. That's Campbell in his the myths when he studied myths. Joseph Campbell. I mean, this is what he looked at. It's in every story. It's in all of us. And so that's why this is so important, and why when you start tapping into your warrior, lover, king, queen, and hero, you become that amazing leader.
I love it. And so, guys, if you want to download this guide and actually get the formula and get all the information, it's right here on thatgeek.com/live. You're going to see this beautiful lead magnet to the right of the video. Click on it, download it, and decide what are your core values. And actually, I would love to know if you know what your core values are. Write them below in the comments right here because we respond to all of them. So Eric, your summit is coming out. I know we're over time, so thank you so much for staying late.
No. What else am I going to do, Yifat? There's nowhere to go.
I know, that's it. This is
Everything's closed.
Right now, this is how we capture people. There's nothing to do. Come on in. But your summit is coming up in May. The way to register and get information right now is downloading the guide, right? And following you on social media. And you have a podcast where you are interviewing people. You want to tell them where to get that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's Eric Rogell talks to warriors, lovers, kings, and heroes. So of course, all the men that I interview, and there's celebrities on there that I've done, athletes, entrepreneurs, regular guys, military veterans, and just regular guys, business guys that I've met. And you can get that at WLKHpodcast.com. So it's WLKHpodcast.com. And again, if you download that quick start guide, you'll get on my list. I'll send you some emails. I don't go crazy with emails. I worked at a company that used to do 4 and 5 a day every single day. And I don't believe in that. So you'll get some really good, valuable stuff. When I feel something's really valuable, I'll send it. But then you'll also get noticed on when new episodes come out. You'll also get notified when the Complete Man Summit is done. Like I said, I'm hoping today that site will be live. And then, the podcast is also available on all the major platforms, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, all of them. You can get them all there.
But go to the website. Get information there. Download your quick guide. And
that's the easiest way. That's the absolute easiest way. Get the guide, get on the list. You'll hear from me.
There you go. Eric, thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys for joining us. Comments, question, anything that you want to talk about, put that in the comments below. We will follow up with each and every one of you. So thanks so much. Have a fantastic weekend. And we'll see you in 2 weeks in That Geek Show. Thanks.